All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. And in perfect harmony with all things Paranormal Portal, it was kind of hit the finish line at a real sprint. But I think we made it. I think we're good. We got a lot of things going on tonight, as well as, obviously our fair buffet of paranormal weirdness that you guys all know and love. And of course, I'm here, and that's good. But I also brought someone else. It's Bring a Friend night here on the portal, and I brought one because joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is his debut appearance here on the Paranormal Portal, and this young man and I have become fast friends in a hurry. He's actually working with me in a few aspects of the shows, as one of which is the investigative series of videos. And he's doing a hell of a job helping me edit those up and making them look good, because I'm kind of like an idiot with a camera, and Jimmy's making it look like I have an idea what I'm doing, which is good because I have no idea what I'm doing. So, but I would like to introduce you all to our new co-hosts who will be appearing as often as he can here on the shows. And I'm speaking, of course, of Jimmy Cipriano. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hello, I'm doing great, Brent, and everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, brother. Thanks for coming on. And would you want to take just a moment to kind of introduce yourself, or you just want to say screw it and let's go?
No, I'm pretty sure you guys can assume a lot from just looking at me right now. You got a great idea. That's pretty. No, I'm just kidding. I'm okay. I know you obviously through Michaela and Paul.
Yep.
Yeah, but also I just otherwise editing and doing some light DIT stuff on the side.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I guess I used to do stand-up comedy. I kind of still a little bit here and there. I don't know. I'm a well. If you have anything to ask, go right ahead.
Well, I think at least it kind of and it's all, I'm going to give you a little mini interview here, Jimmy, just for a second, if you don't mind. I'm kind of throwing you under the bus here. You had no idea what to expect, but welcome to the show, Jimmy. Welcome to the blender. And
Happy to be here.
well, I'll tell you, where did the fascination or the interest of the paranormal come for you? Where did you decide, like, hey, this stuff's really cool, I want to know more?
I remember exactly. Like, I remember elementary school. I would always be into, like, Halloween like didn't end in October for me. Halloween just kept going all year. So like pretty much ghosts, all of that stuff. That was like any books I read, anything like that. Which was, I went to a Christian elementary school too. So like not a lot of people were super into it. So I kind of just was the only one like checking out the books in the library and stuff like that. And then once I got into, what was it? I think it was, I switched elementary schools to a public school. And I remember we were doing the Scholastic Book Fair. I bought a book on like aliens, anomalies, and ghosts.
Uh-huh.
And I read it cover to cover pretty much every reading assignment I could do. I did it on this book. And I stood like, I was like, the Crystal Skull. It was like anything aliens. It was just a crazy amount of ghost stories. And like, I just remember being like, okay, I think this is going to be a huge part of what I am into for the rest of my life. And it has been.
Okay, so if there's a segment of the paranormal that is most resonates with you, what would that be? Would it be like cryptids, ghosts, UFOs, or all the above?
Oh, ghosts for sure. Yeah,
Ghosts.
I don't know what it is. It's like, I think I've never really had a ghost experience, and I know a lot of people that have, and I think it's just the unknown and like, you know, just the idea that, you know, there could be another plane of existence that exists with ours or anything like that.
Right.
I'm so into that.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating as well. I've had quite a few myself, but
I know.
Well, yeah, we have talked. That's true. This isn't your first time meeting me, but yeah, I think it's all fascinating though. But I kind of think that maybe all of it goes hand in hand somehow, in that it's introducing us to the reality, the fluid, dynamic reality that we live in, because you know we're so conditioned to believe that reality is this rigid thing and it's a construct, and we're kind of just bouncing off the walls of it. But I think it's fluid and dynamic, and this stuff is teaching us that, maybe in a sense. But yeah, it's exciting to have you here, brother, and I'm excited to have you join me on the shows when you can, piping in with your ideas and opinions, and I hope you have a good time.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I always have a good time listening, so I'm excited that you can finally hear all the stuff I've been saying when I'm just listening.
What did he say that for? What an idiot! I could have done that way better. Like that? Is that what's going on, Jimmy?
No, most of the time I'm just getting scared in my basement listening to it alone. Like,
well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jimmy Cipriano.
Nice to meet you guys.
He's here. He's here. So yeah, we'll look forward to having you on as often as you can be. I know that life is busy for all of us, but I sure appreciate it, because it's always much more dynamic for me to have someone to talk to, because I'm an idiot all by myself, but I'm less of an idiot with other people. So that works out pretty good.
I love it. I'll be an idiot tonight. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need someone to be my co-idiot. So
perfect.
That works out brilliantly. But you're kind of familiar with the show, Jimmy, so you know what's going on. We're going to be getting into
absolutely.
the news. Are you ready for some news, Jimmy?
Let's news it up.
Let's get newsed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the news. Most trusted news, ladies and gentlemen. The most trusted news. Okay. Guess we can get on with it here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. And I'll be your anchor, Brent Thomas, and co-anchored by Jimmy. And we're going to dive into some news articles tonight. And hopefully I've pulled up some goodies. I don't even remember what I pulled up. So this is, I mean, it's just, it's so funny that, this show is always going to be completely unscripted and unrehearsed. So whatever the hell happens is just as good as it's going to get. So when you come into the show, if you're brand new, just lower your expectations a whole bunch and you'll be fine. don't have real high expectations, and you'll enjoy yourself.
That can be said about life in general. That's great advice just to have.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. I might write a book about it later.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the first one, and this is an article from a site that we know and love here on the show, and it's one that I've used, I guess, pretty much every show for. So hold on, I'm not drowning. It's just I'm purging. There we go. This site has been a great help to me, and I hope you guys will support it. It's unexplained-mysteries.com is the name of the site, and they do a hell of a job. And please visit this site. Go over and see what they've got, because as much as we cover on the show, there's so much more over there, and I know you guys are going to love it. And every visit they get helps to support what they're doing. So please support unexplained-mysteries.com, because they're bringing us our first story tonight here on the news. And this is prehistoric carnivorous terror beast worm fossils were unearthed in Greenland. Jimmy, what do you think of that?
Oh, I was hoping it would be that. I was hoping it would be prehistoric worm fossils. Yes.
Oh, I love this one. I know it's like a bad B movie, isn't it? Oh. All right, it says over 500 million years ago, these huge predatory worms prowled the Cambrian seas. It's difficult to imagine what life was like on our planet hundreds of millions of years before the dinosaurs, but now a new fossil. How do you get a worm fossil anyway? How does that even work? There's no bones. I don't know.
Smushed on a rock? I don't know.
Exactly. It was stuck in the tread of the caveman's shoe. So I lost my spot. Anyway, that just occurred to me. It's like, because it's like really tough to get a fossil. I mean, it's really hard, even for skeleton things. And so how did a worm leave one? That's amazing.
They found it on a prehistoric fishing line.
Maybe there's prehistoric fishermen, yeah, using these predatory worms. But now new fossil discoveries provided scientists with a unique opportunity to peer back in time to an era before any animals had emerged onto dry land at all. Discovered in North Greenland, the fossils are those of a species of large carnivorous worm measuring approximately 1 foot in length. That's a lot of worm, Jimmy.
That's too much worm for me.
You imagine that bottle of tequila? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. OD on it.
Making it a giant compared to most other creatures of the time. Named, oh, God, you should see this word, Jimmy. It's all kinds. It's like somebody spilled Scrabble on my screen.
I'm going to try and hear it.
The Timora bestia, I guess, or terror beast. These worms would have been at the top of the food chain around 518 million years ago. Some of the fossils even had evidence of prey still digesting in their stomachs. Ugh, that's creepy. Scientists believe that these predatory worms roamed the world's oceans for up to 15 million years. That's a pretty good run, though. I mean, for a worm.
That is pretty good, yeah.
I imagine they're speaking about generations, though, right, Jimmy? Not just one.
15 million years. 15. A couple generations, yeah.
We previously known that this primitive arthropods were the dominant predators during the Cambrian, such as the bizarre-looking, there's another word, anomalocardids. Anomalocardids, yep. It's just like Sesame Street on the show sometimes, as I sound things out. Said study co-author Dr. Jacob Vinther. However, Timora bestia is a distant but close relative of living arrowworms. Well, that's even a worse title. Or Chattanooga, that word. These are much smaller ocean predators today that feed on tiny zooplankton. Our research shows that these ancient ocean ecosystems were fairly complex, with a food chain that allowed for several tiers of predators. I think it still does, so that's good. Timora bestia were giants of their day and would have been close to the top of the food chain. And that makes it equivalent in importance to some of the top carnivores in modern oceans, such as sharks and seals back in the Cambrian period. Wow. Well, there you go. Jimmy, did you know about these worms before?
I didn't.
See?
But this seems like it would be an amazing kind of underwater Tremors movie.
Yeah.
I would love to see.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be good. Kind of like a cross between Tremors and the Meg or something like that.
Yes. Oh my God. Wow. Okay, we gotta stop talking about this because I feel like it's writing itself.
I feel a screenplay coming. Oh, that's cool. Well, there you go. That's the first article. I didn't know about this either, so that's the beauty of the news is we all end up learning something. Not
So
that
they were saying they were. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say not that you needed this news, but you got it anyway.
Those were the top of the food chain. They said at a certain time.
Yeah, like back in this day, there wasn't really any big things. Everything was still pretty tiny, kind of emergent from the soup. But the foot-long worms were kind of the kings of the oceans, as it were.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, I was definitely born in the right time period. Sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah, I mean, a foot-long worm is still pretty scary, especially if they're like carnivorous. God only knows what that looks like. But anyway, that was the first article, ladies and gentlemen. But wait, there's more because this is the portal, and I got 2 more of them for you. And next up, we're going to go back to unexplained-mysteries.com for the second article tonight. And this is hopefully another goodie, but we'll see. And this one is from January 7th, 2024. Workman's... What? This comes from the world of the bizarre. I had to reread it because I was like, what? Workmen steal woman's entire driveway in bizarre scam. Yep, there you heard it first. Would you like a new driveway? Then you pay for it, and they lay it down, and then they come back and pick it up that night.
Psych.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's terrible. All right, let's see what it says. One resident of Apopka, Florida, was dismayed to discover that someone had made off with their driveway. Wow, that's not what you think of somebody stealing your stuff. It's not unusual to hear stories of scammers targeting homeowners, but this is the first time we've heard of workmen showing up uninvited outside of someone's house and literally stealing their entire driveway. Oh, so they didn't put one in, they just took one out.
They literally just stood. They're like, "That's a nice driveway. I'm coming back for that."
Yeah, exactly. Not long after putting up her house up for sale, Amanda Brochu noticed that someone had turned up outside her property with a tape measure. When she asked why they were there, the contractor told her that a man named Andre had inquired about replacing the concrete outside of the house. The work ultimately didn't go ahead because the contractor demanded proof of ownership, while Andre, whoever he was, maintained that the whole thing had been a simple misunderstanding. This would have seemed to have been the end of it, but then 1 week later, Brochu looked out of her window to find that workmen had arrived in her garden and were digging up her driveway with a digger. By the time the police arrived, the men had completely removed the entire thing. Fortunately, once word of the incident hit local news, and Brochu was able to raise enough funds to cover the expense of replacing the drive. But the nature of the theft remained a bit of a mystery. In particular, it wasn't clear how the con men had actually benefited from stealing the driveway other than to make life difficult as possible for her. According to reports from realtors, such scams are surprisingly not that uncommon. Yeah, I don't know what the turnaround on a driveway is, Jimmy, but I can't slightly used.
Where do you sell it at?
There's like driveway flea markets along the highway, I guess. Come check out this baby.
Somebody opens up their trench coat.
Yeah. You got a
driveways.
Yeah, they got a couple of big concrete tiles in there. Yeah. There you go. That's creepy. That's creepy stupid.
I like how they played it was a misunderstanding card too. Like in any way that's gonna work here.
That poor woman, she lost her driveway. I mean, it's not like there's got to be any value in that, right? That's really, really weird.
Imagine.
Well, I understand why they filed it in the world of the bizarre. But there you go. Article number 2.
That is bizarre. I mean, they say a driveway loses half the value when you drive it off the lot, so I don't know why they try and steal it like that.
Yeah, they don't appreciate, do they?
No.
Poor things. All right. Well, let's get to the next and last article of the night here on the news, and this one's another Lulu, hopefully. Oh yeah, this is the one, and this one's been making the rounds, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you've heard of it. I've been hearing about it all day as I've been perusing the interwebs, and it's an incident in Miami where there was apparently some 10-foot shadow aliens in Miami. It allegedly caused a response of like 100 or so police officers to the scene of this open air mall, and apparently shooting and everything. I don't know what the hell's going on. Now, I've also heard some people are saying, "Oh, it's a smoke screen. It's a, try to distract you from the list, which was recently released." And maybe, I mean, it could be. I don't know. I don't pretend to be that smart or that's that slick to know what the hell's going on. But I did hear about these, and I don't know. I haven't really seen much for evidence. On your screen, you can see the police cars, and they're everywhere. Are you looking at this feed, Jimmy?
I was. Let me pull that.
You was.
I'm not technically savvy, and it's going to be apparent the further we go into the
that's okay. That you belong here. That's just like the swan song to the Paranormal Portal. But yeah, I mean, there's police cars everywhere, and so the official release, and I'm sure it'll say this in the article as well, but the official release was, it was like 4 or 5 gangbangers, and they were shooting off guns or whatever and trying to intimidate people. But that wouldn't cause you to summon 100 police cars.
No.
That wouldn't make sense. That's not really good taxpayer math there. So
yeah.
I'm not sure what was going on. I'm not sure what the hell this is, but something really strange happened in Miami, and I don't know much about it. So if any of you guys out there listening to the sound of my voice have more information, I'd love to hear what you know. But let's read this article and see what it says at least. And it's by T.K. Randall, January 6th. It says, an extensive police presence at Bayside Marketplace on Monday fueled speculation about a sinister alien incursion. When dozens of police cars pulled up with their lights and sirens blazing outside of Bayside Marketplace in downtown Miami on Monday evening, speculation over what could possibly be happening to warrant such an enormous police presence was rife. I like it when they use words like that, rife.
Yeah.
Like, never hear that in common use. It was rife with speculation. It wasn't long before rumors began to spread on social media, suggesting the cops had been called to the mall to deal with 8 to 10 foot shadow aliens that had supposedly infiltrated the building. Well, that's not good. So great was the belief that these rumors that some people started to insist that they'd actually seen a mysterious creature standing in plain sight in front of the mall, and some video clips posted on Twitter allegedly showing it walking around the outside of the building. See news video below. I'll put a link to this into the different chats, and you guys can see it if you want to watch the news report as well. I don't know if the rumors about the aliens in the Miami Mall are real, but I do know that I've never seen this many police in one place, one user commented. Eventually, though, the reports began to emerge suggesting that the police had not been attending the scene of an alien incursion, but in fact had been called in to break up a large altercation between as many as 50 teens who had seemingly gotten into a fight in the building. There were no aliens, UFOs, or ETs. Officer Michael Vega later confirmed. No airports were closed, no power outages. What's interesting here is how the incident managed to spark such widespread speculation concerning alien visitors, even when the actual event had nothing to do with aliens whatsoever. The term aliens in Miami even made it to the top 10 trending searches on Twitter, and stories of the alleged aliens were published by multiple major U.S. news outlets. So there you go. I'll put the link to this article in the chats. You guys can check it out. See if there's something to see. See if it's something you want to check out. But do it after the show. Do it after the show, because otherwise you might miss. You might miss all the goodness that we're planning on bringing into the show. We're planning always. Sometimes we deliver too. But there it is, folks. This has been a presentation of the Paranormal Portal News. If you didn't know everything you know now, you're welcome. It was free of charge. I mean, what more could you ask? So let's get back to the rest of the show. We gotta introduce Jimmy to the rest of this mess. So here we go. Cool Hand in the chat coming up with a zinger. You never know. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any idea, but the big alien reports was kind of funny. Didn't expect that, but you never know. I mean, it's almost as unusual as the portal itself. All right, what are we doing, Jimmy? What am I doing next, Jimmy? Who am I? What's my motivation?
Question of the week? Oh, no, wait. We're skipping question of the week, right?
Yeah, no, we tried to do question of the week last night, but it wasn't one to do. So we skipped it last night, and we normally do it on Saturdays. You're right. You really do watch this show, don't you?
I watched the show.
I'm impressed. How you doing, Omar? Good to see you, Corona. Omar Corona. Aliens. Yep. There's always aliens. It's always aliens. I do know we're going to be visiting a couple of articles that I've got pulled up here as well. One of which I want to discuss. It's kind of hearkening to Bob Lazar and his whole Element 115. I found an article that I thought would be interesting. It's physicist Bob Lazar, who exposed Area 51, explains how Element 115 is used as a UFO's fuel. So again, this is an element that wasn't discovered officially back when Bob Lazar was apparently working there. In fact, he was I think the first person to bring it out publicly, and everybody thought he's a Fruit Loop until, lo and behold, an Element 115 was soon brought into public awareness after that, which I think really exonerates Bob Lazar. Are you familiar with Bob Lazar's story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And what is your thoughts on him?
I really like Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong screen. I thought you were talking to me. It was the YouTube one. It's ahead or behind. Okay. I really like Bob Lazar. I would say I pretty much believe a lot of the same stuff as him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you get kind of sideways looks when you say that, but no, I think I'd go as far as to say I'm a believer.
Yeah, I think I am too. I mean, and it's one of those things. It's anybody's guess, and certainly he knows the truth, and maybe a handful of other people, and all the rest of us are out here just rolling dice. But I think he brought enough things to the table to at least raise some valid questions, like how would he know this stuff if this wasn't the case?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was definitely plugged into something, and had the wherewithal and the awareness of things going on that he shouldn't have. So even to the point that they tried to disavow that, oh, he never worked here, and then they actually found that he did. Crazy.
Well, that was kind of the thing that stuck with me too. Is like, if he actually is getting to the point where people are going out of their way to say he didn't, doesn't it a little bit kind of validate that maybe he did?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they found his listing in the company roll. It's like, yeah, clearly he worked there. That's no longer a point of debate. It's like, yeah, he's in this listing. Here he is. So, and again, I don't pretend to be real well versed on it, but I find his story incredibly interesting and compelling, and it makes sense. It just makes sense to me. On the show a couple years ago, 3 years ago, had a gentleman named Donald Schmidt, and Donald Schmidt is an author who he was part of Alec J. Hynek's crew in researching Roswell, and that's Project Blue Book for. Maybe more people are better versed with it under that name. But, I mean, Donald Raymond Schmidt was incredibly interesting and talked about all of the controversy surrounding the crash landing and the recovery efforts and all of the crap that happened under the table and to the community in that area while this was being done in Roswell, and how then apparently it was moved to Area 51, and then, somewhere else, Dugway, I think. Excuse me. But in talking to people like that, it really does open your eyes like, wait a minute. There's a whole nother world of information. Like, I mean, we're continents apart between what we, the public, know and believe versus some of this stuff that's going on or allegedly going on. And I can't say for sure it's going on, but it's allegedly going on, and it is kind of frightening. Like now, Jimmy, are you familiar with the term breakaway space program, where there's an idea that there's black projects and things with like super advanced technology that was maybe reverse engineered, and there are pockets of our maybe shadow government, not really the government, but a shadow government, or at least the elites that have control of these things. I mean, do you subscribe to that
Absolutely.
idea? Okay.
Yeah, there's so I've kind of loosely, without actually that term, kind of always believed that,
Yeah.
just in the background.
Yep.
There's actually a great American Horror Story season that kind of addresses that in a very compelling way, and it kind of sums it all up in the way that you think. But that's absolutely something I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do too, and I think it was the curious thing, and I don't know if his name was Rich or whatever, but he was apparently the ex-CEO of Skunkworks, and he said that now we have the technology to bring ET home, and it's like, God, that's a bold statement, you know? That's a really bold statement. So
that is a bold statement.
yeah, I mean, that's not one you just pull out of your hat. But we're going to read this article and see what Bob had to say about the Element 115. And I don't know. This is an article, and this is by the article is coming from howandwise.com. And this is another one of those sites that I really encourage you guys, any of you with interest in the UFO phenomena, with secret projects, things like that. This is a phenomenal site for that. The gentleman is named Vicky Verma. It is a guy. You don't usually hear of guys named Vicky, but here's one. And I mean, he does an incredible job. He's really a hardworking guy and has really given his life to this. And if you get a chance, please support howandwise.com, because he does a hell of a job. So another one of those sites I want to make sure to really ask people to go support and keep running, because there's some great stuff posted over there. Just amazing. But let's get into this article and find out what it's going to say, because that's what we do here. All right, let me reposition here. Time to get serious. Going full Alex Jones. All right. Bob Lazar was the most important entity in exposing the alleged secret activities related to extraterrestrials and UFOs happening at Area 51. He's widely recognized as the Area 51 whistleblower who revealed that aliens and the government worked together on secret bases in 1989. 30 years ago, he claimed to have worked as an engineer near Area 51 at a hangar called S4. Lazar claimed that in 1989 that Element 115, a yet-to-be-discovered element on the periodic table, powered antimatter generators found on the craft. Here's a note here. It says, Bob Lazar's Element 115 is not Moscovium, an element that was first synthesized in 2003 and added to the periodic table in 2015. In 2003, a team of Russian and American scientists sent some joint institute for nuclear research located in Dubna, D-U-B-N-A, a town just north of Moscow, synthesized it for the first time. 115 is Moscovium's atomic number, referring to the 115 protons in an atom's nucleus. Moscovium, more generally, is a super heavy element due to its large atomic number. Hydrogen, with its atomic number as 1, is the most abundant and oldest element in the universe, and is also the lightest. In stark contrast, Moscovium, element 115, is both dense and extremely uncommon. Well, yeah, if they got to synthesize it, it's obviously it's not showing up under rocks.
Yeah.
And it says, when stellar cores reach high enough temperatures and pressures, they can fuse heavier elements together. That's quite a big note. The story of Element 115 gets even weirder when Bob claimed that the FBI raided his business. His followers found this to be very suspicious and have theorized that the FBI was attempting to recover samples of Element 115 that Lazar took from the Area 51. According to Motherboard, the FBI did actually raid Bob's United Nuclear Scientific Equipment and Supplies, which sells radioactive ore and isotopes, X-ray components, electrical items, high-powered magnets, lab equipment, jet engines, and UFO T-shirts. It's nice he threw in a UFO T-shirt in there. This claim was revealed in Jeremy Corbell's documentary, Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. Lazar in the documentary framed the raid as an attempt by the U.S. government to seize alien fuel that Lazar allegedly stole from Area 51, but the documents obtained by Motherboard had nothing to do with Element 115. Corbell told Express.co.uk. Lazar did have a stabilized version of 115 in his possession at one time. He did tests on it. He filmed the element bending light due to its unique gravitational characteristics. And a handful of witnesses observed these tests, including investigative reporter George Knapp. And there is footage of one of these tests in my film. Lazar was able to acquire some of the element when it was being machined at Area 51. So it's been in production there. They've been producing it. Yike. Yeah. Hold on. Just got to cough again. Someone can still question the credibility of Bob Lazar, but there are many authentic people to confirm his credibility. George Knapp stated that he'd spoken with former employees who worked with Bob and verified that he was a physicist. However, these claims were made informally and off the record. Knapp said that these employees were friends of Lazar's and only specifically named Joe Vaninetti as being the one who confirmed it. Vaninetti had a significant interest in UFOs and was involved in UFO research, and Bob, both before and after Bob, claimed to have worked at S4. So there you go. Let's get going down here. Element 115 as an alien fuel. A decade before it was synthesized, when Lazar began discussing Element 115, it was still a mystery and it was just out of grasp. Theoretical element on the periodic table that, according to others more skeptical of Lazar's assertion, was perfectly positioned to lend credibility to his views. Similarly, it is possible that element 119 exists as well, but has not yet been discovered. Could it one day become the key ingredient to an alleged alien cover-up? According to Bob, this alien artifact is a highly radioactive element that allows alien spacecraft to traverse the cosmos, impervious to gravity's effects. Lazar has been claiming for years that he worked on the material at Area 51 and that it can be used to power spacecraft. Lazar also described the materials utilized to make the craft metamaterials, not from this planet. In 2019 New York Times report, it was asserted that the Pentagon had been investigating. Of course they are. Pentagon's always investigating. They're investigating metamaterials from off-world vehicles not made on this Earth for years. I guess it was more than one sentence there. There was actually a paragraph space between it, though. In my defense, the craft that I worked on, that's when it's going to travel a long distance. That is how it operates. It puts its belly to the target and then brings all of the amplifiers to power, and it shoots off in that direction. It doesn't fly as if it was in a space or a science fiction movie. It flies with the belly, the bottom forward, Lazar said in Corbell's documentary. There's no question in my mind that that's the way the craft operated, he said. It's the exact same propulsion system. It's a super heavy element, Lazar once told Larry King. It's a unique element. When it's exposed to radiation, it produces its own gravitational field, its own anti-gravitational effect, and it's what's used to lift and propel the craft. The UFO fuel is stable and did not decay, according to Lazar. He said that the fuel creates gravity waves to propel the UFO. In his initial TV interviews, check the video below, with George Knapp back in 1989, Bob first discussed Element 115 and how it was used in the propulsion systems of the alien craft hidden at the S4 facility. He never denied or confirmed if aliens had given them Element 115, but he told that they had 500 pounds, or 227 kilograms, for reverse engineering purposes. So that's a lot of kilograms, I think. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a lot.
That's got to be a lot of kilograms. Sounds like a kilogram.
It does, doesn't it? In 2014, Bob did another interview with Knapp where he discussed element 115 and how it's created both synthetically and naturally through supernova, which is the cataclysmic explosion of a star. Bob Lazar further explained in his interviews that bombarding element 115 with protons leads to it creating element 116, or it's called livermorium. It sounds horrible. Which immediately
Wait, I'm sorry.
decays.
So
What?
I have a question. The only way that it's created naturally is through a supernova?
Apparently, bombarding element 115 with protons leads to it creating element 116. So I don't know if that's what happens in a supernova or what.
It's right before that. It was saying
Yeah.
that it can be synthesized or it is created naturally in a supernova, which is there's no way they're finding that anywhere. Just finding that's crazy.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess so. But if you think about it, I mean, even the carbon that makes up our bodies was from the heart of a star. I mean, carbon. That is true. Yeah. Gold, heavy metals, they're all from the hearts of stars. So maybe it is kind of just salted around everywhere, and they just have to figure out how to find it. But yeah, I don't know. Interesting stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So in September 2020, Corbell shared a photo of Lazar holding aerogel that was used to package element 115 for transport. He said that he could not include this part in the Netflix documentary, but promised to publish the clip on his YouTube channel, discussing element 115 and how he observed it functioning. Editor's note, I searched through Corbell's channel, but could not find a clip explaining element 115. It was getting too hot in the kitchen, I'll bet. And it's reported that a distortion occurs, a gravitational distortion, and this is highlighted by how these vehicles appear to negate the effects of inertia. You've heard it thousands of times from credible witnesses regarding their UFO encounters. It shot off at an impossible speed. Commander Fravor and Commander Select Underwood used those exact words to me when describing their encounters with the Tic Tac UFO. The craft displayed instantaneous acceleration. It was immediately gone from both sight and radar. Even the Princeton and its Spy 1 radar system confirmed this in real time. So what's up with these transmedium machines? These UFOs that fly with impunity in our airspace? Maybe element 115 can give us a glimpse into the UFO presence on planet Earth, Corbell wrote. Yeah, I guess. There you go. This is another article. I'll put a link in the chats if anybody wants to read more or catch some of the buy articles that are linked in there as well. I mean, it's just a treasure trove of information. And if you're not familiar with Bob Lazar, I would really encourage you guys to get familiar with it because his story is fascinating. It really is. How did you hear about Bob Lazar?
I want to say I heard about him on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to date myself. It may have been the first time I heard him was brought up on Joe Rogan's podcast, probably 5 or 6 years ago.
You're so young.
Yeah.
If you say Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan is dating yourself? What the hell am I, dude?
I don't know. Joe Rogan is dating yourself depending on how you know him. I knew him from Fear Factor, so I don't know.
Well, that's true. I did too as well. And from News Radio, wasn't he on a TV show, News Radio?
Oh, yeah. He was on News Radio. Yeah. That
Way
was before
back.
my time. Just a little before my time.
So I might have dated myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so be it. So be it. I'm good with it. So that was that's interesting. I guess I never did put the article on the screen so you guys could see all the fancy pictures. But the link is in the chat so you guys can check it out there if you're so interested. But again, please support howandwise.com. They got a hell of a lot of great stuff over there. And probably more information you could possibly work through in a weekend or a week or a month. Hell, I don't know, maybe ever. Right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. Let's see, what time is it? 7:44. Good, because we are going to start visiting some more Black Eyed Kids stuff. Now, Jimmy, are you familiar with Black Eyed Kids?
Oh, I am very familiar with the Black Eyed Kids. Yes, they are. They haunt my dreams.
Do they really? Okay. Yeah.
Just the idea terrifies me to my core. I don't know what it is about those ghosts specifically, but I think it's just how little is known about them. They just, what's their ambition?
Right. Yep. What are they after? What are they doing? Yeah. And you
Yeah.
just answered my next question because I was going to ask you. I was like, Jimmy, what do you think they might be? And you said ghosts. So you seem to believe that they're some kind of
I
spiritual
see.
manifestation.
I don't know. I guess I use ghosts very loosely, but I
Okay.
don't think in the classical sense that they were somebody who's alive that they're ghosts. I almost feel like they're more some kind of spirit or presence or something that never really was a human.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that's fair. I think that's a good assessment anyway. So we've been going through, started last night, went through an article from thoughtcatalog.com. And I linked this last night, but I'll link it again. I guess I'll just keep throwing these links out there because I definitely want to encourage people to check out these things, but we're not probably going to wrap up this one tonight anyway. So I'll be working through it for more nights, but this is the article. It's thoughtcatalog.com. 16 people, terrifying encounters with the black-eyed kids. And some of these, again, there's not a ton of information out there about black-eyed kids. They seem to be extraordinarily rare kind of occurrences where people bump into them. And I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason for why they show up. If there's some triggering event that starts, catching their interest. I'm very, very curious about what causes them to just suddenly become a problem. But they do seem to
And
suddenly become a problem.
I never understand. I mean, I've looked up a bunch of stories. I always hear about them on things I listen to. I've never heard anyone invite them in or go past it always ends with, and I locked the door or something like that. So I never gets past that point. So that just adds to my fear of them.
So there's a couple of stories that I can remember, and I'm gonna paraphrase them, but where people did let them in. One story
Ooh,
took
yes.
place where this couple had a cabin or a house. It was in a very rural wooded area, and kind of I don't know. It wasn't really remote, so to speak, but it was more rugged, just a rugged neighborhood where there was homes in the area, but there's a lot of forest in between them and stuff. But it wasn't agriculture or whatever. But they were in their house, a man and a wife, and suddenly they heard a knock at their door. And it was like 1 a.m, and it was snowy out. And they look out their peephole, and there are these little kids. There's like 3 kids just sitting there, just kind of looking down, and you get the normal responses like I saw them, but instantly I felt fear and trepidation. But
Yeah.
I just couldn't wrestle with the idea that these kids were out in the cold, and so they asked to be let in, and I guess it's part of the reason they probably appear the way they do is because people
That's how they get you.
yeah. So they let them in, and apparently, upon coming into the house, at first the husband seemed to get attacked, and it wasn't like physical, but I think they both kind of just fainted, and then they both ended up with huge problems. The kids were nowhere to be found when they did regain consciousness, but they ended up with huge health issues and infections and weirdness that just kind of sprang from this moment. Now, another one was, and this one's kind of a tearjerker to me. This one's really tragic, but apparently it was a mom had her, I don't know, like 8-year-old kid in the car, and she stopped at a convenience store quick and just ran in quickly. And she said that her son was just left out in the car because she was just going to go in momentarily. When she got back out a couple minutes later, her son's still in the back seat, but there's this other kid in there. And she's like, what are you doing in my car? And she said he looked up, and in the mirror, she could see his black eyes. He was sitting back by her son. And she's like, get out of my car, get out of my car. You can't be in here, get out, get out. I mean, she was just terrorized. And so she kicked this kid out of her car. And then he,
I would have. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can understand that, right? But apparently,
Oh, absolutely.
apparently what happened, though, is this little kid ended up getting sick and perhaps, if I'm remembering it right, even passed away. Like he got some weird twisted infection.
Oh.
And when the mom asked him, like, why did you let this strange boy in the car? And he said, well, I was lonely and I just thought it'd be fun to have someone to play with. It's like, oh,
That's so sad.
right. Now, is it true? I don't know. I mean, with any of this stuff, you got to take it with a grain of salt because we don't know. I mean, unless you wrote it or experienced it, it's anybody's guess. But if it is, that's a heartbreaker. That's just like, oh my God. What a horrible thing. So those are two stories that come to mind right away of when people let them in and how horrible that went. I know there's another one that has to do with this weird leg infection, and they were developing like necrotic tissue in their leg, which is basically dead tissue. It's
dead,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
And it's like rotting. And so, whatever these things are, just keep them the hell out. That's the
Yeah,
big
it
takeaway.
it doesn't. It's if they were just kid ghosts, that's immediately sad to me. But it's
Right.
the eyes that really lead me to believe they're demonic or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of leaning in that direction myself as to
Yeah.
what they are. I think it's probably something demonic or something of that ilk, where it's just they're not all interested in our well-being. They're just interested in their own. Maybe they prey upon us somehow and they need to make that contact.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Something parasitic. Somebody said it was Rachel Gets It Right said black-eyed kids are anti-life. That is now my new belief.
They are what? Anti what?
Anti-life.
Oh, right. Yeah. It seems to be. That's a great way to put it, Rachel. Thank you. But yeah, I don't know what they are, what they aren't, but they don't seem to be completely physical, but they don't seem to be completely spiritual. They just seem to be able to, kind of hopscotch around in a manner of speaking. So.
And yeah, and it's the shady tactics of choosing their form as a child also leads me to believe they're just
right
immediately evil, more evil than most things.
Yes, and one movie I like to bring up just to talk about nature's brilliance in terms of predation is that movie Mimic. Did you ever see that one? Where those people were
sounds familiar.
They look like people, but they were really like these beetles, but they look like a guy in a trench coat just kind of hunched over, and they would prey on people in the subways, and it was this terrifying thing. It's like, oh my God, that's horrible. But these things would be like riding around with commuters in the subways and just waiting for someone to be vulnerable, and then they'd sweep them away and they'd be gone, and it's just horrifying. But it was called Mimic.
I think I have, maybe when I was a kid, I think I saw part of this. It looks really familiar, but that's something I actually heard on your podcast was the idea that, how many ghosts do you walk by in a day without you even knowing?
Oh,
I think about that probably 100 times a day now.
I know. I always figure it might be the people that, those people that you bump into, you're like, yeah, I always say hello to people. And maybe I'm an idiot, but I do. I just like, hey, how's it going?
I do too, yeah.
Yeah, and it's those people that just straight ahead. They just
ignore you. Yeah,
they don't care at all.
There's a lot of ghosts in my neighborhood then, because I really try to be pleasant. Don't get it met back with a lot of times.
I figure those might be some of them, or those are the aliens, one of the two. Because I think there's aliens that live among us too. So, but
I definitely believe that too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But let's read this story and find out what's going on in this case. Again, these are real redundant. We may have heard these 11 times, 100 times, but they're in this list, and I can't be held accountable because I can only do so much, All right, so the first one tonight is number 3. We only made it to number 2 last night. Wow. That's not Halloween is the title for this one. I don't know. Did I do this one or not? Nope, I don't think I did. Okay, so this is so funny. I'd never heard of BEKs before my incident, so I came on here to post my story, and the first story I see is about a BEK. Weird. Well, let me preface this by saying I'm by no means a writer, just a domestic engineer. Living in North Texas, I also don't believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, aliens, whatever. How many people do you hear that from, Jimmy?
Quite a few.
Some of the greatest,
especially because I talk about a lot.
Some of the greatest stories come from those very people. Like, I don't believe in ghosts or nothing, but this one time. And they'll go on to tell you this amazing thing, these amazing things that happened to them. It's like, and you walked away from that not believing still. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's Paul. You'd never, I mean, I didn't even know when I started dating Michaela, but yeah, you'd never know that he's got some of the craziest things that have ever happened to him.
Yeah. Have ever happened to anybody outside of a Hollywood script. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. Okay, so let's get back to this one. It says, however, I did have an event happen to me this Halloween that I have to admit has me scratching my head. This is my first post on Reddit, and sorry to say, I'd never even heard about it until yesterday. I told my best friend about my incident, and she's an avid reader of No Sleep, and she said to me, she told me if I didn't post it, she would. So here I am. Anyway, hope you like it. So I'd been a slow trick-or-treat night. It had been a slow trick-or-treat night in our neighborhood that evening, which is pretty odd in itself. We usually have kids from different areas dropped off in ours and have a constant parade at our door. And that night, I'd say we had more than 8 or 10 groups of kids come the entire night. It was about 9:30 p.m. and my husband and I were sitting in our family room watching some of those ghost shows based on supposedly actual events. Like I said, I don't believe in that stuff, but I do like a good ghost story now and then. And it was Halloween and all. Well, we hadn't had any activity at the door in over half an hour, and it was getting late, so we decided to turn the porch light off and let our dog Chloe out of her crate. Chloe's an American bulldog, and she's very docile. We'd only put her in her crate because we were afraid she'd try and get out and play with all the kids and didn't want to have to chase after her down the street. Also, we didn't want her to scare any of the kids because she would look a little intimidating to the younger kids. So I turned the outside light off, and let Chloe out, and she followed me back to the couch and laid down at my feet. Well, I was getting close to 10 p.m. when my husband decided he'd had enough fun for the night and was going to go upstairs, take a shower, and get ready for bed. After all, it was Thursday, and he still had to get up early the next day. My teenage son was out with his friends at a local haunted house and wasn't expected back for another hour or so that left me alone on the couch with Chloe. Now, just because I don't believe doesn't mean those shows don't freak me out a bit. And being alone now watching, I'd have to say it was kind of on the edge, as it were. It wasn't long after I heard the upstairs water for the shower to turn on when there came a light knock, knock, knock at the front door. Well, my initial reaction was, what the hell, really? It's almost 10, go home. But soon an uneasy feeling came over me. Why the knock? Our doorbell glows, and in the dark, without the porch light, it would be extra obvious to anyone there. I paused. I couldn't really just ignore it. Our front door has a big bevel glass panel, and anybody right at the door could see in, enough to see that someone was in the family room watching television. It'd be pretty rude for me to just sit there and not answer it. Knock, 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 again from the door. I glanced down at Chloe, and she was gone. My gaze followed her usual path to the front door, expecting her to be on her way there as she normally does. Nothing. She just wasn't there. I stood up to look around the room better, and I found her crouching by the back door like she's wanting out. However, she never asks to go out like that. She always comes and licks my hand or puts her head on my knee, and this was totally out of character for her. And I have to say, it heightened my anxiety. Chloe, crate, I said. And she just turned back to look at me like, hell no, lady, I ain't moving. I yelled up to my husband, but he was already in the shower. I knew there was no chance of him hearing me. Knock, knock, knock. About that time, a car drove down our street and cast just enough light on the door so where I could see the silhouettes of 2 small children through the glass. I instantly felt relief. It was just some kids, probably a couple of my neighbors, on their way back home and wanted to stop by to show me their costumes or something. Well, I headed to the door and looked back to make sure Chloe wasn't going to follow. What a great watchdog, I thought to myself, as she just sat there. I turned on the porch light and I got to the door, and sure enough, I could see through the glass that it was a couple of pretty small kids. A little late for such young ones, I thought, and began to wonder about what kind of parents would let their kids run the street that late at night. I only opened the door enough to where I could block Chloe's escape if she decided to grow some balls, which was only about 2 feet. What struck me immediately as odd was the kids weren't wearing any costumes. They were in normal street clothes, and also no customary trick-or-treat either. I began to feel very uneasy again, and it was a girl and a boy. The girl to my left was older, I'd say about 11 or 12, and I could tell she was blonde. But I couldn't make out any distinctive features, as our lights are high from above, and our columns on the front porch are so most of the light was coming from behind them. I'd not opened the door wide enough for any light from inside to hit them directly, and the boy was younger and about a foot shorter, say 8 or 9 years old, and looked to have light brown hair. The girl very politely spoke up, "Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call our mom?" As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong. What kid, even at that age, doesn't have a cell phone of their own these days? I couldn't remember the last time I had anybody ask to use my home phone. Hon, don't you have a phone of your own you can call on your mom on?" I asked, and the things got really weird. Both kids turned to look at one another, like they're going to say something to one another, but neither ever spoke. They both turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge left in it. Can we please come inside and call our mom? We're alone out here, and my brother's scared." I have to admit, these were two competing feelings going on inside of me. The first, that of a mother's heart that wanted to help these two small children get to their mom. The other, a sinking feeling in my gut that was keeping the other feeling at bay. And it was then I noticed during the short conversation I'd already opened the door a few extra inches, with which I was completely unaware of doing. I stopped. "Honey, why don't you give me your mom's phone number and I'll call her myself?" Another pause, and they again looked at one another. After a short moment, they turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my little brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside and you can call our mom?" With that last statement, the girl moved closer to the door, like she was just going to walk in on me. As she did, she stepped into the light coming from inside the house, and I got my first real good look at her. Solid, jet black eyes. That's all I could see. The motherly instinct was gone and replaced by terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and the back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where just my face was able to stick out, and the little girl stopped and again pleaded, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us." Then, like on cue, both kids began to whimper and cry. And that's when fear took over, and I shut and locked the door. "I'll call your mom if you give me the number," I shouted through the door, "but I'm not letting you in my house." I could still see them standing there on the porch, just staring at me through the beveled glass pane. Part of me wanted to run upstairs to my husband, but the bigger part of me didn't want to lose track of where they were. That would have freaked me out even more to not know where they were. After what seemed like forever, but probably only a few seconds, I decided I'd call my neighbors who lives across the street. As I made my way to the side table by our couch to my phone, I glanced back at the door. Chloe was nowhere to be found. We later found her in the guest room under the bed. And when I got to my phone and started to look for his contact, it was only then the kids stepped away from the door and began to walk to the street. As they did, I walked to the door to get a better look to see where they went. Still not calling my neighbor. If you get close enough to the glass, you can see out enough to make people's shapes, but you can't see too much detail. Of course, standing that close to the door would make you pretty obvious to anyone outside looking in. From the door, I could see that the kids were still standing under the street lamp nearest my house, just staring at me. As I lifted my phone to my ear after calling, only then did the kids start walking down our street. I met my neighbor out under the lamp once he was out there, and the kids were nowhere to be seen. Like I said, I don't believe in any of this stuff and never have even heard about black-eyed kids before talking to my friend. What I have to think, is that these kids were just out yanking people's chains on Halloween night. But I will say this for them. They were good. Really good at it. They scared the hell out of me and my dog. Wow. What do you think of that one, Jimmy?
I think if a kid ever comes to my door for help, unfortunately, stories like these are why I won't open it or come to it. Like, there's no chance.
I know. Could you imagine?
That's terrifying.
Yeah. All these poor kids out there that no longer have help. Yeah, I don't know. I
Like,
mean, what is the odds? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think these are extraordinarily rare events, but if you look down and saw just nothing but black eyes, hell no.
it's the like, yeah. There's no that's like the cut clear. This has got to be demonic kind of sign right there.
Yep, exactly. Start splashing with water and
So,
yep.
oh, somebody was saying in the chat that it could be vampires. That would actually make a lot of sense too. I think I've never thought of that, but yeah,
Yeah, I've often
some kind of
wondered
child
about that.
vampire.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, there's the whole they can't gain entrance without permission, and that's
Yep.
certainly part of our Hollywood vampire mythos. You know, even the ones that get let in the couple of stories that I shared with you, there definitely seems to be a sickness that follows contact after you let them in. And in some of the old vampire tales, some people were allegedly going to be converted and would be bit several times. And one of the symptoms of being bitten would you get these terrible infections and sicknesses. And so there is very several similarities to the vampiric lore. And I don't know. I don't think this. You see, the thing with it is that the term black-eyed kids is new. It comes from Brian Bethel from 1996, but this is probably a very old phenomena. But what it is, I'm not quite sure.
It just reeks of someone's trying to take it. Something is trying to take advantage of me, and it seems just cut and dry. You know, you want to help, which is just I think what I always go back to is just like they're using the most low form of pulling on your heartstrings to
Yeah.
get you to open the door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfectly said. Last night I was also talking about it. I was like, think about how incredibly adept nature is. Like there's an intelligence to some of this stuff. Like when you have like praying mantis that look just like flowers, look exactly like the flowers that they live on, like matched perfectly. They blend in
Yep.
absolutely seamlessly. I mean, at what point did a mantis go, I bet you if I look like that, I could probably get a lot more to eat. I mean, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like a decision was made, but I can't for the life of me think that an insect made that decision and somehow it manifested. You know what I mean?
It's got to be subcon. I mean, it's got to be just. I have no. I think about that all the time. Though, it's like
Yeah.
what level of consciousness goes into that level of evolution?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's mind numbing. Absolutely mind numbing.
And maybe it's just necessity, but then where does that? What part of that animal's brain does that level in that I need to change my cells to color code to what I'm standing in front of? Like that is beyond me.
Right. Or like an octopus. I used this example last night
Yeah.
as well. It's like, swimming up to coral and it becomes the coral. I mean, it just, by all intents and purposes, it just disappears.
Yeah.
It is no longer an octopus, but it's just a part of the coral. It's like, wow, how do they have that awareness? Such maybe it's not measurable in terms of when we think of intelligence, but this is intelligence. It's like, maybe it's, what is the term? Maybe it's tactical intelligence. Maybe that's
Yeah.
it's a different kind of intelligence, but they seem to know what things get eaten easier and what things don't, and they try to look like the things that don't, like the flies
Yep.
that look like bees and they're colored like
Yeah.
bees and they hover like bees, and yeah, it's like crazy stuff.
It is, yeah, and the that even just scares me even more about black-eyed kids because it's like they're using these tactics to be predators.
Right? Yeah, and they are praying, but again,
Yeah.
what do they want? What do they get? I don't know. But and the hard part is that this is not a phenomenon that you could even attempt to research. Although I will say that years ago, I think Don found this video, and I think I had seen it before as well too online. But basically, some guy, I don't know how, I don't know by what machination he came up with this, but he found that there was a frequency sound that he could generate through a tone generator that would allegedly summon these things. And what he does is in the video, he kind of puts an iPad on his kitchen table, and then he clears out of the kitchen. All the lights are off. There's a motion light out on his porch, but he plays this tone on his like tablet or his iPad or whatever, and it creates this noise. And before you know it, the motion light trips outside, and then comes this, I guess, a black-eyed kid, but it looked like maybe the teenage version. But it just kind of stood there, and it stood there apparently very motionless for about 3 hours, just standing there, not moving, not doing anything, just standing there, like it was this sound was doing it. But how can you research it if that's legitimate? And again, I don't know. I just don't know. But maybe that's part of it. It's just figuring out how do they get brought to an area? What is it that draws them there? And then if you do, I don't know. I wouldn't want to research it though either, to be honest with you.
No, because even just talking about it this much right now, I'm home alone right now. I live. You've been to my house. Like, we have a loud doorbell, and if it goes off right now, yeah,
there'd be fudge stripes down the hallway.
Yeah.
I hear you.
That is terrifying. Also, I don't know if I knew researching it would be crazy because, like, best case scenario, you find them and then you do exactly what he did, which is summon one.
Yeah.
And I don't think no. That almost kind of makes me think, like, if he's using a sound to do it, and I know this is my idiot's opinion on multi-dimensions, but I feel like if it's like a sound and a vibration, would that be something that's like multi-dimensional?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it certainly could be. I don't know. Frequency and resonance, and I think all of it goes together, with what we understand as dimensional or some form of multiverse. So perhaps, yeah, it makes sense that it would. Whatever the case, it's creepy stuff.
Yeah, those ones are the scariest to me. I think those ones are the ones that the lookalike ghosts that try to mimic people's faces. Those ones also. Those two are my top two scariest ghosts, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Creepy stuff, whatever it is, but that's okay because we got the cryptid corner, and I think we're gonna head there now because we ended up not getting any cryptid corner last night, Jimmy, because we just got so busy. But we're gonna hit it tonight, and
let's do it.
Yeah, and first off, we're going to be visiting Sasquatch Chronicles, ladies and gentlemen. If you are familiar with Sasquatch Chronicles, I would fully expect you to be because, if you know the Paranormal Portal or know of it, then I'm sure you've heard of Sasquatch Chronicles, which is by and away the one of the biggest podcasts of all the paranormal world. And Wes does a wonderful job talking to eyewitnesses of not only Sasquatch experiences. He does shows on various topics, but generally speaking, Sasquatch experiences. But he also has an incredible blog, and this is over at SasquatchChronicles.com. And he'll post emails that don't get made into shows or whatever, but these are still incredible emails and such. And some of these do get made into shows. So let's do this one. And special thanks to Wes for letting us use his blog because it makes my job a lot easier. And I love that. Okay, so the first one tonight on the Cryptid Corner, ladies and gentlemen, Sasquatch Chronicles blog. And this is January 4th. Yep, okay. A huge black thing crawled on its hands and knees. Now, Jimmy, what do you think of Bigfoot?
I want to believe.
Okay, all right.
I think it's definitely a topic I'm more skeptical on, but it's something I really, really want to believe in.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. I mean, it is certainly one of those topics that if you're not pretty well versed in it, it's hard to understand all the dynamics and intricacies of it. But I will say that I definitely believe they're out there. I think these are part of our natural world. And not to say that they couldn't be supernatural. They could be. But they're part of our world. And maybe they even have some kind of role. I don't know. I'd like to think that these are, some kind of natural caretakers of the world around us, and they help maybe to keep balance in some of the wild places or whatever. But I'm just, that's a romantic version. I just don't know what they are. But with all of the various sightings and reports people have of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, etc., there doesn't seem to be any question that they're here, and people are seeing them. So, yeah, I think they're there. But let's read this one. It says a huge black thing crawled on its hands and knees. A listener writes, "Good afternoon. A few days ago was the first time I have listened to your podcast. I found it very interesting." Let me do this. Put it up on screen so you can see it. I've been just showing you and I, Jimmy, so let's show us and the article. Sure. It says, "I found it very interesting, and after hearing people give testimonial accounts, I noticed that a majority of sightings happened in the 80s and 90s. Based on descriptions from your podcast, I've come to the conclusion that I, too, had to rethink what we saw wasn't exactly what we think we saw. I'm a Native American, about to Navajo to be precise, or Diné. At the time of the sighting, we lived just a few miles north of Gallup here in New Mexico. We lived a few miles off of old Highway 666. Oh, jeez. That's not a good title for a highway. They should not allow that. But it's now renamed US 491. The road we live on loops around for about 7 to 8 miles along a mountain, opens open areas, and then connects back to US 491. Several road branches at the loop to residential properties where other families live. Here, the properties are surrounded by sagebrush as far as the eye can see, as well as a few pinyon and juniper trees. I think it's pinyon, but good enough, whatever. And for the most part, it's a vast open country with an arroyo with steep 20-foot walls located right by my family's house. My family's lived here since the 50s, early 60s, and they've always believed there was things that go bump in the night, such as supernatural beings, paranormal activities, skinwalkers, shapeshifters, but never a squatch. On the summer of 95, just before dark, I was inside the house when I heard a low hanging gutter fall. I ran outside and I saw the dog cowering, laying in the doghouse. Being a young, naive American native teen, my first thought it was a skinwalker, and I thought to myself, but it's not dark yet. Well, I quickly made my way around the house, checking on the roof, checking on the overhead camper, and it was just outside of the house, and I didn't see anything. So I checked on the dog and went back inside using the front door. The rest of my family, my mom, sister, nieces, and nephews, were having dinner in another house, which was located about 100 feet away. I spent maybe 15 to 20 minutes inside. By now it was dark outside, and all the street lights had come on, and even the huge stadium lights at my older sister's house. Her and her then husband lived about 100 yards south of our house. When their lights came on, it was like daytime. They had a post set up next to their house facing northeast, and the other about 75 feet behind their house facing east. The evening I had a window open and I heard someone yelling. I went outside through the back door. Then my brother-in-law was walking around their house. He was cussing and yelling into the darkness behind their house, and I ran up to him and asked what's going on. He told me that someone had thrown a rock from behind his house. Yikes. The rock hit the top of the roof, and he heard it land on the right side of the doorway. He said he got up there from the couch, picked up his rifle, and he was opening the front door. Another rock hit the roof. It bounced off, and it was shattered the windshield on their pickup truck that was parked in front of the house. He then gave me the rifle, and I ran past the light pole and the huge light towards a hill about 200 feet behind his house. The moon was out, and I could make out the silhouette of trees. What does that say? Rocks? Okay. And I could make out something running in the middle of an open field. I fired several rounds from his rifle, but it kept moving until I couldn't see it anymore. I went back to his house, and my brother-in-law asked if I shot it, and I told him I wasn't sure. It kept running west over the hill, the next hill, towards a place we call the pipeline. It's an area where a huge part of the gas line is exposed going across the arroyo. About a month later, then, my brother-in-law, cousin, and I were standing outside my sister's house It was dark out, sometime after 10, I believe. We're standing in the shadowy part of the house between their pickup truck and the house, and we were telling my cousin what had happened a month prior, leaving his up to his windshield being shattered. We were busy talking and didn't notice this huge black thing crawling on its hands and knees about 200 feet in front of us. Just where the bush line started to thin out, it crawled onto some corrugated metal that was stacked there, and my mom's dog was the first to start barking and running towards our house, though this thing was crawling in on all fours. Yet all of our dogs took off towards it as well. Even the neighbors' dogs joined in. Altogether, there was about 15 dogs that was attacking it. The three of us, just stood in shock, staring at the commotion. When it stood up, it was completely black. It was tall, 8 feet or so. It had long arms, long legs, was hairy, had dogs biting and hanging from its side and legs. And it kept twisting and turning, swinging its arms to get the dogs off, and we could hear the dogs yelp in pain and jump back into the night. And it continued for about 5 or 10 minutes. We watched the fight disappear from the darkness into the darkness of the arroyo. Then the three of us looked at each other and said, "I gotta go." We turned and went back to our houses. All three of us never spoke of what happened again. I always wanted to ask my cousin what his opinion was on what we saw that night, but he was hit by a vehicle and passed away, not far from where this happened. My sister remarried, so I didn't see her ex-husband anymore. To this day, there's still a weird events that happens around our little community. Rocks and twigs being thrown from the darkness, reports of low, deep growling at the windows, whistles, howling, missing domestic animals from local residents. Yeah, those are all pretty well regarded hallmarks of maybe having a Bigfoot present.
Yeah.
They don't.
That's
missing. Yeah.
Things being thrown.
Yep. They don't seem to like the domestic animals at all, and I think it's probably because it's. I mean, dogs and cats can hear them coming a mile away. Like they're so tuned that they pick up on that. They can't sneak, and I think that pisses them off.
Yeah. Also, it sounds like if it's happened in this town for a while, it sounds like whatever it is has a pretty sustained existence living in this town and doing it. So you got to imagine, being tipped off by dogs and cats all the time would piss you off.
God dang it! I was just going to get some fish. Yep, you never know. You just never know. But yeah, very interesting story. Have you ever heard of them crawling?
No,
okay.
No, I haven't. I only actually know one person who's actually claims to have an encounter. They didn't directly see it. They kind of, through a shadow and heard some noises and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually Wes himself, when he had his original encounter when he was up in the forest with his brother Woody, and they had several Sasquatch move in on them. They said they saw, and this is before it was even popular to talk about. Like nobody was saying this at the time, but Wes and Woody talked about how they would get down and do like a spider crawl. It was really weird. Like it would crawl on its hands and then its feet, but it would like, you ever see those pictures of like Spider-Man crawling up a side of a building? It's kind of like that, except flat.
Like scaling the ground.
Yeah. And it's gotta be incredibly unnerving. God, imagine the core strength.
I was going to say,
the core strength.
Yeah.
Alone.
The core strength.
Yeah. It's just got to be off the ticket, man.
I could never be a Sasquatch for that reason.
Give it a go, Jimmy. You can be anything you want, man. You can be whatever you choose. I'm Jimmy and I'm a Squatch. I'm gonna call you Jimmy Squatch. Yep, Jimmy Squatch.
It's actually my dad's nickname for me is Squatch, but it means something different in Italian. I'm not sure what.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Yeah, that's cool. Cool story. Special thanks to Wes. Appreciate it. Someone's not happy. Someone get home?
Got a black-eyed kid at the door. Hold on one sec.
Okay, go ahead, brother. I'm going to start the next one. All right, so we are going to go on to the next one here, and this is Sasquatch Chronicles blog. This is kind of another long one, but I think it's a good. Yeah, it's not too horribly long. All right, so this one is from January 4th. Upcoming guest events at the Catskills, 1994. So this one is becoming a show. So if you're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles regularly, you may have already heard this. It might already be a show. But if not, it will be in the very near future, because I know Wes posts these very close proximity to actually releasing the show. So if you release this January 4th, it's probably live already. I haven't heard it personally, but I love listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. This is one of the places I actually, I don't know, kind of cut my teeth on all this Bigfoot stuff with Sasquatch Chronicles. This is where I think I've learned, and I got to agree with Wes, that talking to experiencers really is the inside track on understanding these things. So much more than anyone else. I mean, nothing against researchers or whatever, but when people witness these things, they get a whole front row seat to a whole lot of different behavior. And so some of these stories are absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But
that's, I think, why too, because it's just, I mean, it's again, it's something I really do want to believe in, but I think early on it was something I was so into that I started taking in all the information that I can. And when you take in all the information on something like that, maybe you start, I think I started to just be like, oh, so I'm into it, but some of this stuff is just not, this is too much for me.
yeah. Well, and with this field, as well as several others, there's certainly a wide spectrum of what it means to believe in Bigfoot, and it could mean you have the openness and idea that there are undiscovered primates or hominids roaming around. There are also undiscovered transdimensional beings that look like Sasquatch, and they might be one and the same, they might not, but there's a whole spectrum of things that Sasquatch might be depending on who you talk to. And
yeah,
it's hard to make any kind of real quantification of the information, but they may be physical, all physical, and that's it. They may be something else. I don't know. It's really hard to say. But here's the story from January 4th. Got to keep watching the time here because we're burning through it. Okay, this is 8:27. This might be, this and maybe a few Black Eyed Kids stories. I don't know. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to hit Phantoms and Monsters, but maybe. January 4th, upcoming guest events at the Catskills, 1994. A listener writes, in the school year of 95-96, we're living in the northern Catskills in the town of Hensonville, Greene County, New York. We had moved there in 1993 from New York City and found ourselves living in a house that was much more remote than we were used to. Yeah, that's got to be like night and day. Moving from Manhattan to the upstate. Oof. It was true departure from what we had previously known. The first year we had 4 feet of snow fall overnight. As a 10-year-old, it was heaven. I jumped off the roof over and over. Our driveway was a tenth of a mile long and very steep and curved. Every window after it snowed and the afternoon sun would melt the fresh snow, and the night would freeze the melt into a solid sheet of ice. And these were my many nights of waking up what appeared to be a large track to get home. In 95-96 year, we'd moved, we had an 18-year-old young man from Germany stay with us for a year. I don't know why my parents decided this was a good idea. I suppose it may have been because my father was gone from Monday to Thursday in the city for work, and having a man in the home during his absence was prudent. No one liked this poor guy. Oh, jeez. That's horrible. No one liked this poor guy. He's stuck there. I feel for him now, but he truly was a terrible person. The kids in high school really despised him. He didn't seem to care. He stood in the bedroom just below mine. The house was an alpine raised ranch kind of home, so his window was at ground level, but from inside was at head level. Okay, so it's like They call them half basements or whatever. My window was above about 8 feet up or so. Right outside the windows was the driveway. Our house, as mentioned before, was remote, and there was a house to the south through the woods, a couple hundred yards, but it was a vacation home, and maybe there were people there 10 weeks of the year. In the other direction was a spring house, a building that held water. You couldn't make any of these places up, and these steep driveways without us seeing headlights. And because it's so quiet down here, we could hear cars coming all night, coming from at least half a mile away. We had a view down towards the road in. The road was a gravel road and dead end. The address was 22 Reservoir Road. If you'd like it on a map, you can do so. You'll see that if you're to head into the woods towards the north, you can walk in nothing but forest for at least 15 miles of hitting even a back road. The area is now New York State wilderness. One night in spring, around 9 p.m., I was lying in bed, and I hear a car door shut just outside my window, which was odd because I didn't hear a car coming up the driveway or see a headlights, but I didn't think much about it until until I heard it again. I looked out the window and only saw our line car sitting there, but the motion floodlight was on. I could tell it had just scroll for effect. I could tell it had just gone on because I saw moths come out of the woods towards the light. I thought I had heard footsteps, but I can't be sure. I heard the car door again and thought I saw something flash out of the sight, but I didn't think much of it. I was only 12 to 13 at this time, so I didn't suspect anything strange. Shortly thereafter, I went up into the kitchen, and the exchange student from downstairs came flying upstairs, looking pale and terrified. He'd finished up his evening workout and had gone to the window to open or close it and said, "There's a face looking in." He would say it was a man's face, but couldn't describe it. It really scared him. This window was right by the car outside. My mom called the state troopers, and they were 40 minutes away. When they arrived, drove up along the wrong driveway, we could see them and yelled to them to come over to us. They took our report and said they didn't see any fire tracks in the driveway, but it was mud season and tracks are unavoidable. This happened over and over all night long. The local cops came but couldn't offer an explanation, other than perhaps it was kids from school pranking the exchange student. He was disliked, so this explanation suited my parents from the time being, and my father was still in the city. He would come home next night, and when the face once again scared the hell out of our live-in guest a third time, my father burst out the door in a bathrobe and a baseball bat in hand, screaming a strong utterances that are for more mature audiences. Where was this? I had followed right behind and distinctly remember being struck by the sound of heavy footfall running through the woods. The runner was fast, and without any light was moving through thick forests in the direction of the wilderness area. I was expecting to see flashlights and hear laughter, but neither were observed. Nearly 30 years have passed, and it's only recently that I've recalled this strange 3 nights and wondered who on earth it was the prankster. The more I thought of it, the less it made sense. First of all, this was 96. We didn't have GPS, and just finding out we lived would be a challenge. Secondly, why would anyone waste their time to do this with someone they didn't care about, and for 3 nights? Third, what kid would case the scene and park nearly a mile away and walk through pitch black forest alone without a flashlight just to look into a window? Fourth, why would they slam our car doors repeatedly? Fifth, why didn't our exchange student recognize the face? There are only 20 kids in the grade, and he was so freaked out by the sight of it. Lastly, I've asked several people who were in his grade at the time about this and who would have done it. Then they never heard anything about it. It's a student or students had done this. Everyone would have heard about it. This is on a school night too, and our school was K through 12 and maybe 500 kids. The class he was in had 20 students, and only juniors below him totaled 18. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I'm certain you'll pick up something from this account that'll be revealing to you, although still hidden from us. Yeah, that's a great take. I don't know. What could it be? Well, just a curious squatch, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Definitely an interesting story to take back from your exchange trip.
And this one time, yeah, he had the creepy face looking in. He had the whole deal. I mean, it was obviously kind of familiar with him.
Yeah. The only encounter I have was, again, they didn't see anything, but what they said they heard was scratching and peeking on they had a screen window, and they said they could do scratching and then somebody pushing their face up against it. So curiosity.
Curiosity killed the cat, so that's all I know. That's what I heard anyway. Yeah. That's what I heard. 36. Okay, we actually got some time. That's good. I do have to use the loo, unfortunately. So I think I'm going to take a quick loo break, and then we'll get back at it in just a couple minutes, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies, but nature calls. And if I don't answer, it's going to get really stinky in the studio. So bear with me. I'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Enjoy the musical stylings of, me and the little video I threw together. So be right back in just a couple minutes. Don't go away. There's more coming up. I promise. I just need to use the loo. I'll be as quick as I can. All right. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raining anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. looking glass. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Well, I feel much better. Got that going for us, Jimmy. How you doing, brother? You're muted. Jimmy, you're muted.
Muted. There we go. No black eyed kids at the door. We're good.
It's a mutiny up in here. No, we're doing good.
Like I'm in an online class again.
Push for on. No, it's good. What do you think of it so far? You having a good time?
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna do this every Saturday I can if you'll have me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you're always welcome to be here. I like having company, and I mean, I like that it's you. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to depersonalize this, but I think it's
Could
just
be anybody.
Well, yeah, I could have a lemming sitting there. I'd be fine. No, I mean, it's just nice to have someone to bounce things off, and I don't know, just share thoughts and ideas. I always feel like I'm a bit schizophrenic when I'm doing the shows alone, and I'm sitting here laughing at my own stuff. I'm like, yeah, I probably look like an idiot right now.
I know exactly how I used to do. I did a comedy one when I was doing stand up, and I did maybe 2 episodes, and it was me alone. And I'm like, I may as well just tinfoil hat right now because I sound like a psychopath, like laughing at my own jokes.
I know. It's so weird, but I've gotten used to it a little bit over the time, and I don't mind it. It's just there was a spell there that both Sheldon couldn't make it and Don couldn't make it, so it was like, hey, it's me. It's just me. There's only me. So I was like, I gotta see if Jimmy's still interested. So I'm really glad that you've taken up the mantle and decided to join me, because I'm having a blast as well. I mean, you're obviously a very easy, perfect fit. So works out
Awesome.
good.
I love being here. So yeah, this just feels like talking. So
yeah, and the ghost box just said 8. Does that mean anything to you, Jimmy?
Perfect.
8.
No, I wish it did.
Yeah, I don't know what it means either. A lot of times it's just random nonsense that thing spits out. Once in a while, it spits out something to be like, what? You know, it's just funny. Like one time I was going to the bathroom and I was like, hey guys, I got to go to the bathroom. Kind of like it would just happen. And just before I was going to leave, the ghost box said zipper. I'm like, wow, yeah, that's relevant. That's relevant. So
somebody's looking out for you at least.
Yeah. I was extra careful with the zipper just in case that was a warning, and everything worked out just fine. But yeah, it was like I didn't expect it, because usually it'll be like I'll be talking about Bigfoot and it'll be like pickle. It's like, what the hell's a pickle? What does that have to do with anything? You know? So.
Well, just in the 2 videos that I've been working on with you, the ghost box it's hit or miss, but there's been a couple where it hits and you're like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, when it's really on, it's on. And yeah, I mean, when we do release those, we'll have to have you come on too, and we can discuss. But I think the incredible thing is that I think there are atmospherics that can cause them to spit out, through whatever sensors it's using to spit out words. I think there's normal atmospherics, and that's just the background noise kind of stuff. It may trigger it, but it's just going to be some inane, unrepresentable phrase or word. But when it's on, it's creepy on. It's like, wow, that's right in there. That's right on point. So I find that very, very interesting. So we probably have time for, let me look at the clock here, 44. I think we got time for one from Phantoms and Monsters. Let me just look and see what we got. Yeah, I think this one will work. This one's pretty short. So, Phantoms and Monsters, ladies and gentlemen, is Lon Strickler's site, friend of the show. He's been a pillar of the communities forever. And I would, again, encourage you to go visit him because Lon has thousands of encounter stories over on his site, as well as his published works are listed over there. You can check it out. Lon is he's been a guest on the show several times, and he's one of those just encyclopedic kind of people that's just been at this so long, and he can speak to any phenomenon just with ease. So it's a lot of fun to talk to him, but it's also the home of his Phantoms and Monsters Radio. So check it out, and you can find him also on YouTube at Phantoms and Monsters Radio. So let's get to this one because this has to do with more squatching. All right, and this is Alberta siblings on ATV chased by crawler humanoid. Are you familiar with crawler humanoids, Jimmy?
I've heard of them.
Okay,
You might have to refresh me on the crawlers.
well, basically a lot of people are calling them rakes. You know, like the rake, these emaciated,
Oh, yeah.
like buck naked, pale, absolutely pale things. Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of people also call them crawlers, and I think that's probably a more accurate description. But again, that's kind of like Black Eyed Kids. It's where I think it's an old phenomena, but it's just a rebranding. Somebody came up with a new name for it on a creepypasta, and therefore it's just fake. It's born on the internet from this date. Well, no, it's just a rebranding. So, but anyway, this is Alberta siblings. Let's see what happened to them. It says 3 siblings are riding an ATV in Alberta, Canada field when they notice something crouching down. This being then stands and begins to chase the siblings while they attempt to flee. He says, I received the following account. When I was 16, I was on an ATV with my 2 older sisters, one 15 and the other 18. We were going to my grandma's, which is less than 2 kilometers away from my parents' place. We were traveling through our fields, but on the way, I suggested we go around the fence so we didn't have to open the gates. It's pretty much the same path, just a bit off to the side. We had gates because this is where our pasture was for the cows. Well, as we got to the middle of the field, we all noticed something sitting on top of the hill and that we were about to climb. On top of this hill, we saw what looked like a big pile of rocks. We slowed to a crawl because it looked human. We thought maybe a calf fell and was stuck, but this thing was sitting weird. Basically like how Spider-Man perches over buildings, crouched down on top of a rock. Well, as we're sitting there trying to figure out what we were seeing, this thing slowly stands up, and my heart sank. Its arms were long, grossly long. I screamed to stop and instantly jumped down from the front of the ATV to the driver, replacing my sister. And as we were switching, this thing started running at us. But it was running weird. Its arms were swaying back and forth like human runners, but because of how long the arms were, it looked weird. You'd think that it would run on the long arms, but it didn't. It was running fast. I turned around and shot off straight through the field. My sisters were screaming it was still coming, but honestly, I couldn't look back at this thing. I just said, "Don't look at it." We rounded the corner, and that's the last we saw of it. As we got home, I crashed the ATV into the deck, trying to get in as fast as we could. We were so scared my parents actually believed us. They called all the family to warn if it was a trespasser. They said nobody had seen anything or anyone in the fields. Now I want to describe this thing. It was tall, skinny, and it wore no clothes. Just a body is what we could see, grayish color, and the head wasn't shaped like a human's. We were about 30 to 40 meters from this thing. It was during the day, too, and it happened in Alberta, Canada. I wish they would say what it was shaped like. It wasn't shaped like a human. Okay,
Yeah.
well, what was it shaped like? Give us a shape.
boat?
Yeah, it looked like a penguin. I mean, what does that mean? So it doesn't really help to connect the dots a lot, but that's a creepy thing. And here's another one. I mean, these are exceptionally rare encounters where it comes to these crawler things. But what do they want? Well, apparently to eat people, it looks like. What would you think, Jimmy?
Probably. I mean, if I saw it alone in the dark, definitely I would think it was coming to eat me.
Yeah, I mean, if anything's running at you, that's always a huge
Yeah.
red flag. That's like, okay, no, I don't know what you are, and I don't feel comfortable with this. This looks like a bad touch coming, so let's call
Yeah.
this let's close
Maybe
this.
it's just like a big dog and it's excited and it's not gonna hurt you. It's just looking scary.
Yeah, but would you be willing to roll those dice? I wouldn't.
I have my rabies shots. I might be willing to.
Really?
No.
Well, there you go.
No,
There you go. Not me though, man. I'd be like, nope. I'm noping all the way out of that one.
no, I would have ran. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's that. I don't know what they are, and the weird thing about them is they're not always remote. Sometimes they show up in like population centers and stuff. It's how did they get there? What are they doing? How are they getting around? I think these things are probably, and I've come to this conclusion lately about these crawler things is that they have to be a subterranean creature, primarily like 99% of the time. They've got to be subterranean because, I mean, you look at every other example in the natural world around us. Things have fur. They've got protective layers from UV and from temperature and all of this stuff. But then you get to more subterranean things, and they're basically just skin. I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that, I mean, there's no precedence of anything. I mean, even fish have scales. They got something. But whatever these things are, I don't know. But I think they must be subterranean and just work their way up every once in a while and go hunting. I don't know. Really creepy. Whatever they are. Barbara says, I agree, subterranean. Yep. Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate the backup on that. Saw something similar on trail camera on Sasquatch channel. It was naked and had really long arms. Yeah, that's awful. I could go my whole life without seeing things like that. You know, that people say, would you like to see this or that? And it's like, a lot of times, no. I love talking about it. I love researching it, but I love that it's happening somewhere else.
Yeah.
I love that it's not happening here in my living room or something, you know. I've had enough personal experiences, as you know, Jimmy, and as do all of you, because you guys have heard my stories many times, but, you know, I never asked for any of them, I don't think. I don't think I encouraged any of them. They just kind of showed up. But anyway, really weird. So we don't have time for any more stories, Jimmy. So when's the next time you're going to be able to join us?
Well, this Saturday coming up, I'm going to visit Paul from Michigan. So I'll be down in, he's not in Michigan anymore. He's in Tennessee. So I'll be down there next Saturday. But following Saturday, I'm all yours. Awesome.
Well, I will be absolutely excited to have you with me and become a part of this regularly. Because by God, two heads are better than one. Well, there you go. Between us, we at least got one. Sorry.
You're giving me a little too much credit right now.
I was giving you most of the credit on that, Jimmy, believe it or not. So
I honestly, I'm so happy you invited me on because this is awesome. I mean, even I'll be the first to tell you, you know, there's a lot of things I do not know about, but I just love talking about all of these things regardless. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, this is your first steps down this deep rabbit hole, and I mean it's I don't know either, and nobody does, but I think it's the discussion that makes it interesting, and just throwing around ideas and talking possibilities and stuff, because you know that it's what I've said on the show for years is that, and many people have as well. It's not just something that I'm patting myself on the back, but so many people praise themselves as expert. I'm an expert on this or that. It's like I don't think you are, because we don't know what any of this stuff is. We just have no idea. So my take on it is everybody's take is just as valuable as everyone else's. You know, if you got an opinion, throw it in the mix. Why not? And maybe it'll wash, maybe it won't. But discussing ideas will never be a bad thing.
Absolutely, I love that.
Well, thank you, brother. I got more of them. You'll find out over the time you spend with me.
I'll keep writing them down. I'll publish the book.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody needs a coffee table book. But we got about 3 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. Just to those of you that did win T-shirts, I'm going to get those all sent out from the last drawings, and we're going to be gearing up for some new T-shirt giveaways for January, probably coming up in the next week. And hopefully some more of you guys will win. Well, somebody's going to win. At least 2 of them should be one, but we'll do one for the channel members on YouTube, and we'll do one for the Discord. So last night we actually had one listener, Batman. He actually sponsored a giveaway.
Batman, yes.
Yeah, he actually sponsored it. That was really cool. Because he just likes, I don't know, like sharing the love. That's kind of crew we got here, Jimmy. They're really great people. But
you guys, this literally is one of the best communities of anything that I've listened to or been a part of. You guys are literally all, I mean, just going through the chat on the side of this video, everybody's referencing the Discord. People seem to know each other.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Are you on the Discord, Jimmy?
Yeah, yep. As of today, I'm
Okay.
so hit or miss with Discord, but I'm going to be better about it. I joined today.
Oh, very cool. Good. Yeah, that'll be a great way for us to communicate as well. So, but ladies and gentlemen, that's going to about wrap it up for us tonight. Hope you guys had a good time, and thank you for helping me to welcome Jimmy to the show. I'm really loving this as well. It's nice to have company. It's nice to have another voice other than the other ones in my head. So remember, we'll be back. I'll be back Wednesday with Don, and then Friday with Sheldon, and then next week next Saturday night we're welcoming Hometown Ghost Stories will be joining me here on the show on the 12th. So that'll be a week from tonight, and then the following week again, then Jimmy will be back. So we'll just keep churning away. You're back. You're in it now, brother. So anyway, if you find any articles of things you think would be interesting to cover, send them to me. Send them to me through email. paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, or send them to me through Discord if you're in the communities. But yeah, I guess until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday, 7 p.m. So don't miss it. I might be taking attendance. I don't know. It just might. And hate to have you absent. So good night, everybody. See you next time.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, Brent.
Jimmy, hold on the Skype, okay?